The webinar start. It looks like we're just about ready to get started. We are coming up at the top of the hour, and we'll do that as soon as the 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, depending on what part of the world you're in. It says 00. We'll get started. Howdy, Leonard. Are you seeing the presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
You're ready to go.
Okay. All righty. Here we go. I'm going to get started now. Welcome, and thank you for taking a couple of minutes the next hour to join us for Finances Are Not a Deal Breaker, 5 strategies that make college happen for your kids. I just want to quickly share something with you. Yesterday I was driving back from my daughter's house in California. I live in Idaho, and I was with my wife and her mom, and we were listening to some news stories, and one of the things that came up was how inflation is impacting everybody. And I asked her, she's on a fixed income. I said, how's this affect you? The price of food, gas, and everything else. And she just simply said, yeah, everything's costing more, but there's nothing she could do about it. And the fact is, it is what it is. And I started thinking, wow, it is what it is. I knew I was going to present tonight, and I thought, but that doesn't have to be the way it is with college. The price doesn't have to be, it is what it is. And I just want to say that you're in the right place, and it's a pleasure to have you. Thank you. I want to thank Sydney and Leslie of NSHSS, National Society of High School Scholars, for the opportunity to present this webinar tonight. Their dedication to academic success and providing all the resources and scholarships that students need that both enrich their lives and also fire up their career interests and their goals is unique. And our partnership allows us to reach more and more parents and students with our tools that they need to eliminate money as the deciding factor in the final college decision. As a financial aid specialist, my interest is pretty much just in helping parents with the financial aid process and nothing more. We don't sell private loans. We don't sell personal information to anybody. The ACT, the College Board, the SAT people, scholarship search companies, even high schools are now selling your information. They have been selling your information, yet they're free services, a lot of them. And you pay for the privilege for the ones that you do pay. Like NSHSS, we charge a small membership fee to do right by our members. We are self-funded. And because we charge a fee, we're 100% accountable to our members. So I'm going to take you on a journey through the financial aid landscape in the hopes that you will become empowered to make better decisions on how you manage the higher ed system and get higher tuition discounts. How you apply for financial aid in a way that truly reflects your current and your future situations, and pay for college that doesn't hurt you. And I'm thinking primarily about the parents at this moment. It doesn't hurt you financially for the rest of your life by impacting your retirement negatively. And also as well as students who might carry undue burden of debt, adding to the $1.5 trillion already out there. So let's get started. Show you my screen. And let's talk about the agenda we have going on tonight. Okay. All right. The college list. Location, location, location. You've probably heard about real estate, is all about location, location. Well, the college list is about location. Where you go has a great deal to do with how much or little you will pay for college. This cannot be underestimated. If your list doesn't include colleges you can use for leverage, your chance of paying more than you have to is much higher. It's hard to negotiate a better price if you don't have other offers. That's why early decision isn't always the best way to go, because you can't compare offers from other colleges. Um, the financial aid forms, preparing them to your best advantage. Some parents will tell you that the FAFSA is not a big deal, and for some, it isn't. Some people, you just can't mess it up. If you're fairly low income, or even if you have a lot of money, if you're applying to a community college that doesn't cost $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a year, you can't screw it up. You really can't. Except that so much is writing on the results of that form, and doing it right is really to your advantage. And if you don't, your consequences for that year's financial aid award that you will get can be impacted negatively, because you're not going to get another chance at this. And I'll mention that later. Colleges and universities, even in the future, are going to want more and more information from you as they shrink the number of questions on the FAFSA. That's going to be changing. But they're going to want this other form, which is used for about 200 schools, called the CSS Profile. That's actually the worst financial aid form ever invented. Now, financial aid evaluations is analyzing the offers the student received by determining if your student was fairly awarded or not. Leveraging and negotiation fall in this category. So you look at the award letter and you see what's left for you to pay. Few award letters are alike, so they can be pretty confusing. This is not an official price because you're going to get the actual bill in July, and the amount you owe will change a bit. It's unfortunate that not all there's not a standard. Some will just have a list. I'm going to show you what that looks like. Some will have different sections, but they all kind of add to the confusion because it's the first time you've ever looked at this stuff, and some colleges don't want you to know actually how much you're going to pay, and I'll show you how that is. So you look at the award letter, you see what's left for you to pay if you can figure that out. And as I said, this is not an official price because you're going to get the bill, and that will be it. Once you have your award letters, colleges will offer the least amount of aid possible that you'll and still have you accept. They spend billions of dollars on knowing how to package your student. And I'm saying your student because I know I thought this is mostly parents, but apparently we have a number of students on this call. But they spend billions of dollars knowing how to package your student. And it's all done by computer. Now, most of us really aren't skilled negotiators, and FAFSA SIS cuts right through that and makes it incredibly easy to get the colleges to sweeten the pot. Having your child's aid package increase by even as little as $3,000, and I'm being conservative here, amounts to over $12,000 over 4 years. Writing effective need-based appeals. Now, if your financial situation has recently changed, after you've submitted your forms, or you still haven't filed your forms yet, and you're going to need to make a need-based appeal letter. Now, this is not the same as negotiating because it has to do with how your new financial circumstances impact the information you've already submitted or will provide. Then there's the best way to pay for college. How are you going to pay the bill? There's paying out of income, college savings plans, home equity loans, grandparents, family members, anybody who may want to help you out, outside scholarships. And then there are the loans. Loans fund what's left after aid or your contribution or other resources. If you still have to pay, a lot of parents will turn to loans. I wanted to quickly say, why should you listen to somebody like me? Well, I want to respect your time, and because the mind can only absorb what the backside can endure, I'm going to limit the amount of facts, figures, and jargon to only what I think you really need to know tonight. So here are some pertinent facts as to why you might listen to somebody like me. I've been a financial aid guy, as I said, for about 25 years. Like the farmer's insurance guy on TV, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. And that's 100% true. I have been called by others, I don't call myself this, a financial aid advisor to a financial aid advisor. One aspect I am particularly pleased with is how I've assisted parents with their appeals for more financial aid, help them negotiate for more money to get the lowest price possible. Now, I've either worked with or been responsible for managing the financial aid process for over 104,000 families. My company licenses the professional version of FAFSA Assist, which is called FAFSA Soft. Like McDonald's stopped counting the number of hamburgers it serves, a number of years ago, we stopped counting the number of Fafsas we've filed. And through another partner of ours, Collegiate Funding Solutions, they do college planning software, and they work with a lot of financial institutions. We've been the financial aid specialist for some of the larger and more prestigious, you probably would have heard of them, but LPL Financial is pretty big. Major insurers like Northwest Mutual and some federal credit unions like NASA, Boeing, the Pentagon, as well as a number of smaller ones across the country. And I get questions, by the way, from parents all the time, like, why can't students go to their guidance counselor for help? Why do I have to have somebody like you? Well, some guidance counselors do have the time to help fill out the FAFSA, but they need the family information to do it. And lots of parents are reluctant to share that kind of personal information with a teacher. And mostly it's, they're just for teachers on their side. Some of them want to help, but there's just too many students per counselor. So they're busy dealing with all sorts of different social situations and issues that require their immediate attention. They just don't have the time. And most aren't comfortable with money any more than the parents who are, their kids, the parents of the kids. They want to help. And they don't want the responsibility. And neither do the school districts. They don't want the liability. Now, students already receive quite a bit of help with college admissions, essays, and test prep. But when it comes to parents, you get next to nothing. The high schools do try and help presenting financial aid nights, often sponsored and presented by a local college that leaves parents with more questions than they get answers. Just like kids in the playground, they learn about stuff from each other. The birds and the bees, for instance. Parents get their financial aid information mostly from other parents who don't know any more than they do. I have two goals tonight. The first I've already mentioned, that all roads lead to Rome, meaning the best college for your child at a price you can live with. The second I'm going to share with you a bit later. So let's get back to our little journey here. First, a quick history lesson. Don't have to write this down. There will not be a test. 56 years ago, President Lyndon Johnson, and he's the guy in the middle with the big ears, he signed into law the Higher Ed Act of '65 and established the federal government as the primary provider of financial aid. A couple of things have happened in higher ed since that time, but what didn't happen was a unified and consistent financial aid policy. Federal aid to support students has mushroomed into a complicated web of programs and options, including loans to students, parents, grants, work-study, tax credits, and other state programs. It would take 3 or 4 slides just to name them all, and I probably wouldn't get them all. In 1978, subsidized loans were made available to all undergraduates regardless of need. This means that the interest was being paid by the government as long as the student was in school. Not a bad deal. It also expanded eligibility for Pell Grants to middle-income students, which no longer exists. Then there were the Hope and Lifetime Learning tax credits that allowed families of college students to offset their educational costs with tax credits. A credit is different from a deduction because if you, let's say you took a tax credit against the $1,000 of taxes you don't owe taxes. So that's the difference. In the 90s, and I'm going to talk about this, PLUS loans were made available to parents that went all the way to the full cost of attendance. Previously, they could only borrow $4,000. So parents, with students, regardless of need, allowed parents to borrow as much as they want, including room and board and personal expenses and transportation. And this was the real turning point in college pricing. So what started out as a system to help lower income families afford tuition has morphed into one that I'm sad to say and sorry to say that it actually favors the affluent student. How did this happen? Well, colleges look at parents as paying customers. So you should consider yourselves a consumer of higher ed, which is actually a good thing. And I wish you would treat this as a business of finding college, and this business of finding a college. You are a consumer of higher ed because college is a commodity just like your morning orange juice or your bacon, okay? Just like any other goods or services, as evidenced by the thousands of colleges, universities, and online programs and all the things you can do, community colleges, to get a degree from. The difference between college and orange juice is that you don't get emotional about it. Well, some people who like their bacon probably do. You have more power than you think. You have options. You have choices. For a long time, parents have been told that college is really the only way to get into the upper middle class, to really have a chance at success in America. Whether that you agree with that or not, it's not the point. The fact is, they have made parents feel guilty if they can't do it, if they have problems do it, or force them to make decisions they're not really financially capable of making safely. The word is safely. Colleges are really good at manipulating not only your emotions, but your students' emotions. You can control this if you know that you have goals, objectives, or that rather they have goals and objectives, meaning the closer to May 1st, and this is important, the closer to May 1st, that's National Decision Day, closer that day comes, the more crazy colleges and especially admissions people get. You see, they have to build a class. They have to have all these kids show up and get cheeks in the seats, as they call it. Okay, they got to fill their class. They have to meet their numbers or they pack their bags. College is a business, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a sacred cow. It is a business. Even though they have not-for-profit status, a lot of them, doesn't matter. They still need to generate money. Okay, so let's talk about specifically why does college cost so much and why it's important for you to know this. Since 1980, college costs have gone up 1,200%. Crazy, right? Consumer price index for all items rose a fifth of that. It's pretty incredible. What I want you to know is that even if you remotely were thinking somehow you weren't able to save all this money for college, if you're even thinking that you failed your child, just that's stinking thinking and give it up. I mean, you got to let that go. There's nothing you could have done to keep up with the cost of college. Nothing. Parents, they go, well, they'll ask me, well, wait a minute, how does the college and the government expect me to pay for this? And the answer I give them is fairly straightforward. They expect you to pay because millions of parents before you did, apparently without too much complaint. That's one of the reasons. But the real reason why, well, here we go. You've probably heard of the climbing walls and rising health insurance premiums and, state funding and bloated budgets and high salaries for college presidents and all that, and, financial aid being given out. And now with so many kids stressed with anxiety and depression, which is a real problem, and the colleges having to pay for that kind of help they have to give the students. Those things all add to the costs and bureaucracies that the government's laid on, with its loans and veterans programs and everything. It's not just because of that. It's because a number of years ago, back in the 80s, colleges wanted to make more money. Banks wanted to make more money. So what did the banks and colleges do? Well, they got together and they kind of made a pact. He said, colleges, if you raise your prices, we'll provide money for the students or the parents to borrow. So as colleges raised their prices, the banks made more money available to parents, and the colleges continue to raise their prices, and on and on and on it went. Sort of a vicious cycle. So you can check this. I did an article in LinkedIn, taken from the Wall Street Journal. You've probably heard of a lender called Sally Mae. All the colleges did this. There's a big story that was out a month ago about Baylor University taking care of, they're in Waco, Texas. They were a relatively small conservative Christian college that a number of years ago decided they wanted to become not just a regional college, they wanted to be a big national university. So they started raising money, raising their prices, and attracting students, to spend that money. They promoted themselves until finally their own community, that their basic crowd of people, the students that they've been educating for decades, are now, they can't even afford it. And the ones that get in there are told by 24-year-old admissions counselors, don't worry, your parents can borrow the money. We know how to set that up for you. With no plan to pay it back. This is a scandal. Baylor University. I mean, and they're no different than just about any other. Okay. So let's talk about the basics. I'm not going to go deep into financial aid. You probably know a lot of this stuff already. But in case you don't, I'm just going to give you the real basics. What is the cost of a school? Well, tuition and fees, obviously. The classroom work, health fees, technology fees, student activity fees, the room and board, of course, books. You got to be able to study, supplies, lab work, supplies, whatever. Transportation, got to go back and forth from school to get home for holidays or weekends. And then, you got to have pizza money, buy clothes, deodorant, things like that through the course of the year. The EFC, expected family contribution, I know you've heard this. That's going away, by the way. It's going to be called the SAI in a couple of years, called the Student Aid Index. But right now, it's still the good old EFC. And that is the minimum amount of money to be expected to pay at any college, This is based on parent, students' income and assets. So how much they have, and they're weighted differently. The number of kids going to college at one time. This right now, if you have just say a $20,000 EFC and there's 2 children going to college after the one started, then it's half of that. It's 10,000. If you have 3, then it's about 7,000. Works like that. Number of family members in the household brings the EFC down a little bit, and also depends on the age of, how old the oldest parent is. That kicks in what's known as an asset protection allowance. Doesn't mean much anymore. It used to save the parents, they could have $60,000, $70,000 in savings that the government wouldn't assess. Now, it's more like 8 or 9 or 10,000. That's all they let you have. Now, your EFC will be different at different colleges. Just because it's one number, they're going to do what they want with it. And they'll say, well, your actual family contribution could be twice what the EFC is. And that's one of the reasons you want to get into this Fafsa system, so that you pay no more than your already overpriced EFC. You don't want to pay a dime over that, if possible. But the EFC will be different. There's also different EFCs. I'm only going to touch on that briefly. Let's talk about the cost of attendance and how that EFC really works. So let's say you had a cost of school was $50,000, average price private school, and your EFC was $20,000. Well, that gives you a financial need of $30,000. So now the school has to come up with $30,000 to fill. Will they fill all of that? Maybe, maybe not. And what are the types of aid that you can get? Well, there's merit aid, known as scholarships. These are actually tuition discounts. We'll talk more about that later. Need-based grants. That can be from the school, but basically, right for this sake, I'm talking about the Pell Grants and your state grant program. Loans, both federal and private. Federal work study, which, by the way, if you're offered it, is not a guarantee that you'll actually get the job, and it's paid to the student directly. And then institutional grants. Now, this is money that generally, after everything they can give the student from other sources, they'll meet some of the need with some of their own money. Wealthier schools have more to give. And also, the more they want a student, they will give more. So let's go on to financial aid, the untold story. As I mentioned, colleges spend a lot of money, billions, marketing to your student. They also spend millions more on enrollment management. So what does that actually mean, enrollment management? Well, there aren't even as many deans of admission anymore. At least that role has been totally reshaped, reworked. It's now an enrollment manager, and they're responsible for attracting as many students and giving them the least amount of money possible to get you to come. So, and they use all kinds of sophisticated analytics and tools to do this, and a lot of them are good at it. Some aren't so good, but a lot of them are pretty good. But they're spending billions of dollars marketing to you and pressuring you to actually, feel like you've got to apply to their school. Now, if you get a brochure in the mail, I'd like you to do this, the students who are listening, you've probably got some college brochures hanging about. If you were to take a piece of paper over the name of each school on those brochures and marketing brochures, those packets, would you be able to tell what kind of school it is after you've covered their name? They all look the same. They're spending billions on this stuff. They're hoping you don't know. But what they want to spend, they're spending their real money on is making sure that if you do apply, that they get you in their web, and I know that sounds terrible, but they get you and they'll make you feel like you're part of it. They've got a lot of stuff going on in marketing right now that's incredibly sophisticated, and they're going to want you to say yes to the first offer they send. And they're going to tell you, I'm going to tell you something you're going to want to avoid regarding the student loan ploy. We'll get to that. But here's the thing about financial aid. Right now with colleges, they're facing declining enrollment numbers. A lot of schools are not seeing as many applicants as they used to. So, and a lot of schools are going out of business, and they're being sucked up by other schools. Just happened to Mills College, Girls College in California, Women's College by Northeastern University. And now with COVID and the economy bouncing all over the place, it's been very difficult for them to really get a handle on how many kids are applying. But with fewer students applying, that's a big problem for them. If they don't get enough people in their class, they lose their jobs. And I don't want you to give them your power. Your power meaning you have the ability to reason, to research, to use certain techniques that they count on you just by the power of how great they are and what a great fit you'd be and what an asset to our community you'd be, that they want to bring you in. You're looking for an education that's going to pay you a return. If you were going to be a sociologist, you want to learn to be a sociologist or any kind of a teacher, and the school costs $85,000 a year, and I've seen kids go to schools with those kind of professions in mind. You know how long it takes to pay that off? I know students have a real tough time even, imagining what $30,000, $31,000, $27,000 is in terms of debt, they get out of an undergrad degree with. I mean, I know it's very difficult to even fathom what your payments could be now, but believe me, in a few years, that stuff becomes very real. So don't give them your power. Do the right thing for yourself. Find out ahead of time, what can you expect from them? Leverage other awards. We're going to get into that. Use their strategy. They're marketing to you. You market to them. You market to them. And if you can't avoid college debt, and I don't advocate for college debt, but if you have to, there are ways to do it. There are better resources than schools will tell you. It's just they don't have the time to tell you. There's stuff on the federal website that is there in plain view that most people don't know about. I mean, it wasn't until 5 or 6 years ago that even the financial aid departments even knew there was a death and permanent disability clause in the PLUS loans or in their loans. So if a parent took a PLUS loan, a parent loan undergraduate student, they took a PLUS, and they died or their student died, the loan was forgiven. These people didn't even know that. And there's so much more believe me, there's a ton here in the loan world, which you've got to know about if you're going to borrow. And even if you've never thought about borrowing, you might want to think about it to save your own money and pad your retirements. Parents are talking about. Okay, admissions and financial aid. It's important to know. Need blind. Elite schools, state universities. This is where the admissions department and financial aid, they're totally separate. Harvard has their own financial aid side and they have their own admission side. They don't meet until you're admitted. And then financial aid says, here's the package, because they already have your paperwork, and they say, okay, out it goes. But this is only for need-based money for those kinds of schools typically. And there's only about 25 private schools that are completely need blind. Those are the elites and, as I said, the state universities. There's colleges, a lot of private schools are need aware. They will consider your finances. They will consider whether or not you are a good student for them, or in other words, there was comparing two students, and one's going to require a lot of money, and one's not going to require any money, and they're going to go, okay, you're a better student, so we'll just take you. They won't give you anything, but they'll take you. But if there's another case, you have two students and one parent has a lot of money and the other one doesn't, they're going to take the one that has the money. It's cheaper for them. It's business. That's where affluence helps the marginal student. It's unfair. And you've got to be strategic and apply to a number of schools. I'm going to talk about the number of schools in a moment. Not all colleges are financially equal. They are not. Don't expect them to be. Some are going to meet a high percentage of your need. You know, if you have a need of 30,000, some will meet that 30,000. Most won't. The elites don't offer merit scholarships because everybody is a scholar. You know, everybody's got 4.0 and 1,500 test scores, right? Or 34, 35, 36 ACT scores. So that they can't determine that. Plus, they have so many kids applying, they don't have to offer an incentive to get kids to apply there or to go there. People will find a way to pay no matter what. Public universities really don't offer much money at all. The merit money they do for top students amounts to $2,500, $3,500 tops, with a little bit of grant aid thrown in. Merit aid is primarily used as an incentive, to attract the students they want. And just because you're eligible for aid, I don't care what your Fafsa says or your profile says, it doesn't mean you're going to get any. And if there is any remaining need, the school will offer grants if they want to. The exception to this is public universities do spend a lot of money on non-need-based aid on wealthy out-of-state students because they get more money and they're willing to give a discount to students, like in Ohio or in Rochester, in Rhode Island or Alabama. You may have heard this, and I want to make sure we're not going to get too pressed for time here. Private schools can cost less than a public school. They have to compete with lower priced state schools, and they have to compete for the same students. They also have more money. They don't have to rely on the government so much, the state. They have their own endowments, and they can do what they want with it. Their gold, their rules. So let's take a look at a public university. It's the SUNY Buffalo, upstate New York. This is 2020 prices. Public university, $28,000 and change. We're looking at a $16,000 EFC. You can see that in red. The eligibility for financial aid is $12,329. First thing they're going to do is put a loan out there, which gives you an unmet need of $6,829. For most students, that's all you will see at that level of EFC level. That means you're going to take that $16,000, add it to your gap, the unmet need, that's known as your gap, and your total cost to the parent is going to be $22,829. Now let's take a look at the same student going to a school like Colgate. $75,000, $16,000 EFC, eligibility for $59,000 of aid. They get the aid. Their unmet need is less, is negative $2,000. The parents are only responsible for the original $16,000. That's over $6,800 per year less than the public school. Private schools can often be, so don't say no to an out-of-state private school. You cheat yourself. Now, looking at the college list, going back there, because this is really important. Your college capital really is your GPA, your transcript, if you didn't take tests. And I gotta be honest with you, to get the edge at some of the better schools, you have to take the test and you have to find a way to do well. If you don't, you know, and there's still test optional, fine, but know that it can hurt your chances not only of admission, but also in the financial aid department. Find generous colleges matching your profile. FAFSA Assist makes this very easy for you. It's all been done for you. You'll find out what the tuition discounts are. If you're in the top 20%, you will be treated favorably. And geography can matter a lot. Then location, location, location. If you're in Connecticut and you apply to a school in Idaho, hey, they don't have any kids from Connecticut. They may offer you a lot of money. I had a student get $25,000 from Irvine, California. She went to Allegheny College in Northwest Pennsylvania. She didn't really have very good grades. Her test scores were pretty good, but they didn't have anybody from California. Colleges like to say, hey, I've got a kid from this far away that are coming, and they can attract other kids from other. Colleges love to be able to say we've got kids from all 50 states. And then when you apply to a lot of these schools. Even if you don't have any intention of going there, you can use them for leverage. Leverage, leverage, leverage. You don't buy a car and try to get a deal without going to another couple of dealerships. And when it comes to price, the choice of college is everything. It really, really is. Now, most private colleges discount. Unfortunately, colleges are, like I said, they're a business. They're looking for affluent high school students. They're in demand. So when you're applying, if you're not an affluent high school student, like most people aren't, because there's only so many of them, you have to apply to many schools that would be looking for somebody like you, which means you have to do your own marketing. Everybody wants a deal, even the wealthy people. I mean, I have somebody, I'm talking to a parent half the time, they make $1 million a year. I'm not telling to brag. I think they're in, why should they even wanting to do it? But they're going to do it because they want to show the school. They're from Grand Island, New York. Not a great community. It's obviously not an affluent place. They make a lot of money, but they want to show the school what they have so they can, get a deal. Discounting. Now, if you don't get at least a 35% tuition discount, and a tuition discount is the free money the college gives you divided into the tuition fees number. If it's not 35%, they're not trying that hard, and you can go after them for more money. And if they say, oh, well, okay, they didn't want you enough, I'm sure there's other schools you applied to that will give you at least 50%. When you're applying for schools, you want to see what the yield is. How many kids actually go to the number of seats that they admitted, the other students admitted. So if they had 100 students that they admitted, how many actually showed up? At Harvard, it's like 60, 70, 80%, 80 students. If you're looking at a yield of 16%, 16 students, let's talk percentages. 16, 20, 23, 25, 28%. Anything below 28%, that's a leverage point. And for parents who are doing financial planning, and this is, Collegiate Funding Solutions, the one I do for the banks, the credit unions, the fact is that all that planning in the world just does not get you the best price. The best price is the student and the right college. So quickly, got a couple of forms to get through. I'm going to try and get done as quickly as I can. As the Fafsa. You fill this out for federal and state grants, loans, state grants, state loans, institutional money, and work study. The profile, probably heard of this. 200 schools use it. The more selective schools do. This is primarily because they have a lot of their own money and they want to be equitable about it. So they ask a lot more information about you. They consider your parents' retirement assets, business assets, and income. They, if your parents are divorced, they're going to look at that non-custodial parent and the step parents, and even the parent the parent you live with, if they've remarried, that person. And they're going to look at your lifestyle choices. What money have you borrowed for what kind of cars do you drive, that sort of thing. Not all colleges will ask that, but they are in there for some of the schools. Then you have all these supplemental forms. Colleges have their own forms, verification forms. Government says you got to verify so many kids. There's the institutional documentation service from the College Board, known as IDOC. They've got DocuSign things. You got to send taxes up there. Sometimes you got to send tax returns in. Doing your homework. This stuff you probably know about, but you should know what the college is using, the FM or the IM, federal methodology versus the institutional methodology. The institutional methodology, like the College Board, some of them will count your home equity, and it's good to know how much they're going to count. We can tell you that. Financial aid is not all the same. To maximize the free money, you need to know first of percentage of need met, and if the only way you can find that is to ultimately apply. But you can know ahead of time what is the average, and there's a lot of sources out there to find that out. And wouldn't it be a good idea to know right up front if you're going to qualify for state grants or federal government grants? Now, this is where we're going to get into the rubber meets the road. Colleges often hide the real cost of college in their award letters. They're not uniform. They don't all look the same. They're hard to compare. I don't know if this is on purpose. I doubt it, but they're misleading and confusing. And some will look like you owe nothing. And that's what we're going to show you right here. I've seen this way too many times. So we've got a student with a scholarship, a grant, a Pell Grant. They're kind of low income. They're getting a COG. That's a special Pell Grant look-alike. A state grant, the subsidized and unsubsidized loan, and then the parent loan that they're offered. And so the total aid package is $68,128. $68,000. Right? So there's the cost of attendance. There's the aid package. Out of pocket, zero. Pretty good deal. The fact is, it makes it looks like you owe nothing. And that's what some of these packages are. But in truth, you owe $31,750. That's what you owe, even though it says nothing. Be careful when you look at these letters, okay? These awards are computer generated. So when you're looking at them, you want to know about evaluating, are they fair? How do you know if they're fair? And if they aren't fair, why aren't they fair? And you can often tell by comparing with other similar colleges with similar students, College Capital, EFC. There are some websites out there like Tuition Fit, and also on our site, Fafsa Assist has that information. When it comes to negotiating award package, let me tell you, be afraid to ask. If you don't ask, you will get. You won't lose any aid from what they already gave you by asking, and that's an urban legend. Another urban legend is if you ask, the admission offer will be rescinded somehow. That doesn't happen. I don't know how that stuff gets started. The worst they can say to you is no. You do it right, and the chance of them saying yes is much greater. Have a three-step strategy. Know how to handle. How you're going to email them, you're going to call them, you're going to send your other award letters. Know what you're going to do. When do you do it? Timing can be everything. Sometimes you don't have to do anything. You just sit and wait. Maybe something will happen. For this negotiating the awards, got to be in the student's voice, not we, not meaning mom or dad and the student. It's the student's voice. It's I in this case. It's the student's voice that communicates with the school. And don't give up after the first try. Go to your second, your third try. You can increase your aid award up to $18,000 a year. It happen more times than not. Financial aid appeals, they're a different approach. It's basically on your finances and what's happened in your family. Timing is a little different. You might want to apply, send that appeal before you're admitted, after your forms are done, or you can wait until after you get the award letter. I'm kind of torn between. It just depends on the situation and the kind of school it is. The parents do this. This is not a we. This is the parents that do this. This is not something a student would do. Each college has their own procedures. Some will want a standard form. Some will just send an email and you write a letter. You find out. The website will tell you how to do it. In the appeal, no more than 1.5 pages. No more than that. The rest is the proper amount of documentation, just to the point you're addressing. And this is what you're going to tell them. 4 things. What happened? What caused the situation? What does it mean to you? And how you're going to be able to deal with college or not be able to deal with college? What are you doing to help yourself? And what is it you want? What's it going to take for your student to go to that school? Funding the shortfall. Income, savings, gifts, outside scholarships. All great. This is the shortfall. And I would also include the EFC as well. But typically the shortfall, and that means after the free money, everything else is shortfalls as far as I'm concerned. So if you have a bill that's $40,000, it's up to you. How are you going to pay it? Loans. I don't advocate going into debt, as I said, but if you need to borrow, there are ways to do it. And I was on the phone with a parent the other day. They said, oh gosh, I was told never to take a PLUS loan or a federal loan. I said, I don't know who told you that, but that is absolutely not true. I've been doing this 25 years. I took out PLUS loans for my kids because I knew how to use them. Now, I was going to mention this really quickly. Student loans. Okay, so you get your package, comes in late February, March, you get all these letters in, and then the school starts peppering you with letters and emails saying, hey, better apply for your student loan now. You don't have to, that is just to get them to you to assign the loan and make you a decision before you're ready. You can get a student loan, a Stafford loan, direct unsubsidized or subsidized loan at any time during the school year. You don't have to do it on their timetable. You do it when you want to do it. If you take an unsubsidized, this is a tip. If your student does take an unsubsidized loan out, pay the interest every few months. That way, at the end of the year, it won't get added back into the principal, and you'll be paying interest on interest. Just something you should take care of. Undergraduate private loans, last resort. That's all I'm going to say about that. Last resort. Although private loans can be a good option for doctors after they've graduated med school. The shortfall plus loans has a lot of benefits. And again, you can borrow anytime during the year, and they have lots of repayment options. And you can actually position yourself for forgiveness, whether in 10 or 20 years. So you could even say, a family could say, well, we owe $130,000, $140,000 for all our kids. And there's a couple techniques you use, and now you're paying $300 a month for 10 years, and that's it. The rest is forgiven. You pay $30,000, $40,000, the other with the interest, another $120,000, $30,000 forgiven. Goodbye, done. So you can definitely, there's a lot of things you can do. The bill's going to come. I know the reason I mention this is because the bill's going to come. You're going to see all the charges and credits. You're not going to know what the heck they are. Be prepared for that. But you're going to have to pay that bill prior to the student getting on campus or that day of. They offer all kinds of payment plans. Typically, they're 8, 9, and 10 months, equal payments. If you're going to have grandparents kick in some money, have them pay the parent, give the parent the money, and you parents, you pay it. Otherwise, it could be considered a gift or resource, and you could lose aid. What's next? This isn't just about filing the Fafsa. There's plenty of time still, if you're a senior, there's plenty of time to file leverage colleges. A lot of admissions deadlines don't even start until January 1st, and a lot even February 1st and March 1st. You have plenty of time to make FAFSA corrections if you think if you want to like reevaluate how you answer some of those questions. And there's ways in which you can evaluate and negotiate your aid award packages as it comes down to it, as well as the best ways to pay. So I suggest, because we have a wonderful program here, it's the TurboTax of financial aid, really, by subscribing, the system tracks your progress via videos, emails, texts. It always knows where you are. It'll save you time, money, a lot of effort, headache, and frustration. It's $149. I know that seems a bit, but our system is very complicated and needs constant updating. And there's ways around it, to fund that yourself. If you do sign up tonight, and we'll know, we'll give you a free year next year. And also, if you want to refer a couple of friends to the site, 2 friends that sign up, it'll pay for your membership. Okay. There's also a higher level of service that's more personal, and I only mention it because we do put it there for people who really just can't manage this on their own. So for a few people, it's better to have some professional help. That includes a private independent educational counselor, gives you a list, essay help, and application review, leverage colleges, all the forms and everything's managed, all the tax stuff, directs all the negotiations and appeals, advise best pay, very personalized stuff, unlimited access. It's $2,000. You can't get that program unless you go through me, and I'm going to try to convince you to use the regular FAFSAs for $149. So I want you to apply, even if you won't go to that school. If you've done your homework and they give a lot of aid, I don't care if it's across the country. Apply. Don't express a whole lot of interest. Too much interest means, it's like you're giving the real estate agent some incentive to not get you a better price. They'll charge you more. Apply. This is what I'm telling you. Apply to 12 great colleges. Forget safety, target, reach. Safeties, you're not going to be happy there because academically it's not going to be challenging enough. Target, well, I don't know what that means. Reach schools, if you're lucky, you won't get the money anyway to be able to afford it. So that's why I kind of blow that off. Understand, we don't know what we don't know. Don't accept that award right away. The college has been known to ante up more money a few weeks later if you don't say anything. But always, at the right time, ask for more money. Give yourself every advantage. Don't make costly errors. A system like FAFSA is really easy to use. I've got grandmothers using it. We have thousands of people using it. And it's like having a guardian angel by your side, making sure that everything is done when it needs to be done. We want you to renew and tell all your friends about the program. And referral fees do add up. Okay. Quickly, I hopefully you learned a lot, but I fear that a lot of this is general knowledge that doesn't necessarily relate to what's going on with you, the student, or your parents. And you need to know how you can apply what you've learned here tonight to your own specific situation. And I hope what you've learned is this is more than filling out a form. I hope you've learned that much. that it's more to do with taking a frustratingly complex and intimidating process and getting down to the most basic thing, a financial, academic, and social fit for all involved. I can't. I know I can't take the emotion out of this for you. I've been there, done 3 kids myself. I can tell you not to worry about how you're going to pay for it. You probably aren't worrying so much today as you will in a few months. What I can tell you, though, if you just let this go and don't take any follow-up by subscribing, the time we spent just now, this hour, really have been wasted. And that's a fact. What I can tell you is if you follow the 5 fairly straightforward tactics and use some pretty darn effective and unique tools, you will make the college experience a better one now and in the future. Now, you really only get one crack at this per child. And that's why it's so important. I'm not going to really go on anymore, but I think you should. I've done everything I can to make the system as good as it can be, and for the lowest possible price. I think that what we've done here is been pretty good. So I'd like you to join me, and let's go back to the days when financial aid worked for the people it was intended for, when everyone could afford college without going broke. The deciding factor of your college choice shouldn't be about the money. It doesn't have to be. I'd like you to join me. Now, I want this to be your story. And Leonard, if you have any questions, I think we've got 10 minutes.
I do. The first question is, if I want to make any changes to my FAFSA after I have filed it, can I do that still?
Yes, you can, with guidance. You don't want to cause attention to things that may not be 100% accurate. I don't know, specifically, I don't know what changes they're talking about, so I can't really get into that. But you can make changes as long as you have a good reason.
Someone wants to know the exact location of where to go and sign up for FAFSA Assist.
I believe it's on the email invitation to the webinar that it's on the National Society of High School Scholars. There's their webpage, I believe that's on there. I can't give a live link because I mean it's on the computer, so it wouldn't work. So it's on the NSHSS site.
If a college is offered a scholarship with a deadline, but it's not a top school that I want to go to, is there a way to extend that deadline for the scholarship?
Sure, absolutely. You just write them a note saying that you're looking at that scholarship, and you just need a little more time to decide. That's all I gotta say.
That's wonderful. My income is very high. Is it still important for me to file a FAFSA?
Well, if you want to let the schools know that you can afford them, yeah, because colleges will give up some money that you wouldn't otherwise qualify for. In terms of, well, it's a bribe. That's what it is. You know, they want, and here's the thing. Colleges, like I said, are a business, and what they would like is to have donors, future donors, and they want to have retention rates that go the full 4 years. Graduation rates, 4-year graduation is very important to them. And they know that parents can afford it. You know, they won't bail out because of cost. So it's show them what you got. It's like, hey, this is my hand. This is what I got. Show them your cards. They'll reward you for it. Go ahead. Next.
If my previous PLUS loan was discharged due to being disabled, will I be able to qualify or be eligible for a new PLUS loan?
No. No, you're out. That's unfortunate. My sister actually had a couple of for two of my nieces PLUS loans, although they were done with school. But no, you can't get a PLUS loan if you're already qualified for permanent disability discharge. No.
My son is a junior. Do we need to sign up for FAFSA Assist this year?
Well, considering that the college searches are really starting now, and you want to know which the best colleges, they're going to be great financial fits as well as academic and social, I would say, yeah. And you get next year, you know, we'll give you next year for free. The tools are fantastic. I mean, you have EFC calculators. We have Merit Max. It'll tell you, you know, I mean, there's just so much in there. I don't want to, you know, sell it. I mean, I think I've already said what I can about it. But it's a tool that it's the gift. I call it's like that movie Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase. You know, and it's like the Jello of the Month Club. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I guess that's what I'm saying.
If I'm going to go to college part-time, will this affect the amount of money I receive?
I don't understand the question.
Part-time, going as a part-time student, will they receive just as much money as going full-time? Will they get paid for going part-time?
Well, part of the question, one of the questions in the FAFSA, in the profile is, will you be going half-time, full-time, part-time, whatever? And no, you'll be based on your status, your enrollment status. So no, you wouldn't. If you're only half-time, you're only going to be taking half the classes. So why would they give you aid based on the full year? No.
Next question. Plus loans. Can they be discharged?
Well, there are a couple of outs. There's so many things about them. I'll give you the 30-second thing. One, they can be paid for in any number of ways. There's standard repayment, extended payment, graduated repayment. They can be consolidated. They can be double consolidated. They can qualify. If you do double consolidation, they can be discharged. That has nothing to do with death or permanent disability. You can get either a 10 or 20-year discharge. Although the 20-year at this point would have a tax bomb at the end of it, but not necessarily. That's today. So they can be forgiven if that's the question. Yes, they can be forgiven, not discharged in the sense that probably the person who wrote it.
Is it savings or salaries that are primarily used to come up with the EFC?
Income is the primary driver for parents.
Okay. Are there any hidden scholarship opportunities on the FAFSA website that are guaranteed?
There aren't any scholarships on the FAFSA website, and none of them are guaranteed. Even if there were, nobody can guarantee a scholarship in the sense that, if you're in Georgia and they have the Hope credit, Hope scholarship, there's certain programs, they guarantee you if you meet certain criteria, like Florida's got Bright Futures. But no, there's nothing on FAFSA that I'm aware of that you can go and get a guaranteed scholarship. That'd be like, they're not in that business, no.
Are there any steps I can take now to lower my EFC?
Well, the answer to that is yes. What steps, without knowing your situation, I couldn't answer.
Correct. If a student goes to a community college first before they transfer, should they apply for FAFSA before they transfer, or when do they apply for the FAFSA? When they're going to a community college and want to transfer schools?
Well, I would I'd file the FAFSA for the community college anyway, and then when they're starting to apply to transfer, you apply and send the FAFSA to those schools when you're transferring. You can send the FAFSA to as many schools as you want. There's no really limit.
Is tax-free disability income considered as income? It's a good one.
Well, I'm going to put it this way, as judiciously as I can. If I had a client, in fact I did have a client who was a fireman, retired, disabled, was getting a tax-free pension, and I didn't know that initially. First year, this kid went to Cornell. I didn't know about it till the second year, and he told me he had it, and it wasn't on his tax return; it's untaxed income. So I didn't do anything about it. A year later, third year, the accountant put it on there, and he lost all his aid. I'll just put it this way: there's no way, if it doesn't go to the IRS as untaxed income, there's no paper trail for it as far as the IRS is concerned, unless you put it on your tax return. If you don't, then it doesn't exist. So there's your, that's.
every year. Is FAFSA required to be filed each year?
Well, I believe in Illinois and Louisiana and is it Texas, another state? Yeah, you have to file. Well, at least initially you do. If you're getting aid and you want loans and stuff, yeah, you have to file it every year. It's a renewing form. Yeah. We're running out of time.
Those were the questions that I have.
Okay. All right. Well, we're just about out of time here. It says 1 minute or less than a minute to the top of the hour. They're going to cut me off. So I'm going to just say thank you very much for attending. You can always reach out to us at info@fafsaassist.com. I do hope you'll take advantage of signing up. It'll be the best, most effective $149 to spend on college. Consider college costs $100,000 to $320,000 for 4 years. And I think that's it. I think just turned top of the hour. So
Thank you,
again,
everybody.
Everyone.
thank you.